Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, my entitled ridiculous family took a $400,000 loan illegally in my name to fund my sister's studies and lifestyle. They stole my identity and money. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. The first one starts like this. I am 3 years older than my sister, and it was never subtle that they did not treat us the same. When I turned 15, I needed to get a job if I wanted any spending money, because my parents would no longer give me an allowance. My sister turned 15 and she was still getting money from them and not being told that she needed to work. There's no other way to say it aside from that she was spoiled, and that led to her being entitled. She always got her way from our parents, and they would always take her side no matter what. All she would need to do was blame me, and I was being punished for something she did. She got a car in high school from them while I stuck to riding my bike or the bus. It was obvious favoritism towards her, but I don't want to give anybody the idea that I was neglected. My parents gave me what I needed and did still love me very much. They just treated me like a normal teenager or young adult, and honestly, I think it made me a better person. In school, I managed to work hard and get a scholarship to a college. I was so happy because it meant I didn't need to take out a bunch of loans that could get stuck with me for years. My parents didn't believe it was good for me to help pay for college, so I still worked part-time in order to pay for food and textbooks. 3 years later, my sister got into her dream school, Sarah Lawrence College, to study history and law. She did not get any scholarship, and when I questioned about the high tuition cost, she just told me that she got a loan and I dropped it. A year later, I graduated college. That was when I started getting emails and even letters in the mail from a bank requesting that I pay back my loan. I had no idea what they were talking about, but I found out that a loan for $400,000 had been taken out in my name for college. I went to speak to the bank thinking there was a mistake or something, but papers had my name signed on it with my social security number confirmed. They did not care what I had to say, they just wanted the money. I did not have enough money to pay back those loans, and even if I paid the minimum amount each month, that would be just covering the interest. It took another 3 months, but I finally got my family to spill the beans that the loan was for my sister's education, and that was how she went to college. They were telling me this like it was not any big deal, when they had committed fraud by using my name to make this loan. The worst part was my sister especially did not understand why I was so angry about the whole thing. Sister, just calm down. Jeez, you're throwing a fit like some kind of baby about all of this. Me, well, it's your educational loan. Are you gonna be paying it off? Sister, of course not. If I wanted to do that, I would have done on my own name. Mom, honey, you're older and have a job already. Plus, you didn't have your own loan. It just made sense to have you use the money you saved for your sister. Me, I went to a school that would have only been like maybe 10K a year, not 70K like her. Father, you don't see me whining and asking you to give me money for everything I've given you. A roof over your head, food in your belly. I couldn't believe how cold they were being to me about this. I left and didn't go to any more family dinners because I was too angry to face them. My credit was gonna be destroyed before I even hit 30 because of all of them. My roommate had a brother that was a lawyer and set me up to talk to him about the whole thing. He told me that signing up for a loan in my name was illegal and it should not be too hard to prove that in court. The only thing was I had to make the hard choice to push criminal charges against my parents and sister. Yes, they were still my family, but honestly, they did not feel like that after what they had done to me. I felt betrayed, and if they didn't want to act like I was a good son, I was not gonna defend them. I pressed charges and the trial was an absolute circus. I mentioned what my sister went to school for and feel like I need to mention that she had only done a pre-law program at this point. With her entitled personality, she figured that she knew more than any other lawyer they could have hired and decided to represent them herself. I had claims against her for knowingly spending loan money not in her name, and she was acting as the defense. It was clear that she had never been in a real courtroom setting because she was scrambling from the beginning and did not know how to do anything. They technically did have another lawyer, but she would cut him off at every chance and shout her own objections when things did not go her way. The entire time, my parents were smiling and thinking that she was gonna get them out of this. For the forgery on the documents, it was nowhere close to my signature or handwriting, but identical to my sister's. I could never prove this part, but I believe they got away with it because my sister has a pretty gender-neutral name and just pretended that she was me during the paperwork, with my parents co-signing and going along with it. Again, the exact setup had no way to be proven exactly, What we could prove though was that it was my sister's handwriting, and she was getting angry and objecting that it was not valid evidence because handwriting is not unique to people. I was questioned about when I went to college and that I had a scholarship and did not actually need anything. Meanwhile, my sister's college expenses were looked over and it lined up very close to the loan amount that I apparently took out for my education. Nobody was getting fooled by this, and I was honestly glad that my family was not very smart outside of books. They all got trapped into admitting having a part in this scam to get me to pay for my sister's loan. The forgery was not the only crime being decided at this trial. Using somebody else's name, a social security number, is considered identity theft. They pretended to be me in order to get a benefit, and finally, after all the pressing, my sister had her full entitlement come out right there in the courtroom. Sister, why does it even matter if we took out the loan? He's the older one and had a job while I needed to focus on school. This issue is clearly a family matter and doesn't belong in court. Judge, I'm gonna give you a piece of advice. You're not a lawyer, and I suggest against speaking without him advising you. I will also say that in this court we take matters of identity theft seriously. You're not a dependent of his, and he has zero obligation to pay back money that you spent. That shut her up quickly and made her realize that this was serious. They all ended up behind bars due to being involved in the fraud and identity theft. The burden of the loan was also thrown onto my sister, who in one last-ditch attempt tried to argue my parents should pay it before being shut down. I don't talk to my family anymore, and while I know it's better for me, the whole thing still feels a little bittersweet. I just need to remember that they are the ones that messed up and paid the price. All I did was save myself from a lifetime of debt. And yeah, Ripe Stars, honestly, if I was OP in that situation, I could never look my parents in the eye again after screwing me over like this. Honestly, who needs enemies if you have a family like this? I think OP dodged a huge bullet here, and he should never get in contact with this family ever again. Anyway, the next one is titled, Almost Got Arrested for Swimming in a Pool. I, 28 male, autistic, just wanted to spend some time relaxing in our local swimming pool. I had black goggles and liked to swim underwater, and I also liked to simply rest against the poolside and chill. Also, I was the only adult male without any kids in this pool, which is clearly for everyone to use, shallow at one end, deep at the other, etc. And well, I'm just resting by the poolside when a manager, not even a lifeguard, a damn manager, comes over to me and tells me my presence and behavior is making someone uncomfortable. He explained that someone had complained that me diving underwater and simply sitting by the side of the pool was apparently unacceptable, because I was apparently doing this to peep on kids. He told me this in a non-accusatory tone and seemed to sound as confused as me about this. At first I thought I was upsetting some over-worried parent, and being a parent myself, I felt horrible. I explained that I was just relaxing by the poolside, offered to take off my goggles to put them at ease, and even wanted to apologize to this person. The manager seemed to accept this and presumably went back to the parent to let them know that I was sorry for upsetting them. About 10 minutes passed and the manager was back telling me the police had arrived. I was shocked and asked if it was about me. The manager said yes and that they wanted to talk to me. This is when I met the entitled dad for the first time. A big guy, maybe early to mid-30s and pretty buff looking. This is the only time he spoke to me, and all he said was, "You better go quietly or I will tell everyone here that you're a pedophile." He walked away before I could reply, and the manager let me out of the pool. I felt tempted to flip this Kevin the Bird as I walked by, but I kept my cool and just left. I then get to the locker rooms and 2 policewomen were waiting. Fortunately for me, they were really nice and friendly with me the whole time. After grabbing a towel, they started asking me what happened and what I was doing. I was honest and told them that I was just trying to relax and had no idea that I was upsetting this person just by being there. I even told them that I was autistic, which led to one of the officers telling me that they had a family member who was also autistic. They then asked me for my details to run me through their database. While that went on, the entitled dad walked by and one of the officers asked to talk with him. He agreed and they went elsewhere. I got changed back into my clothes, and as I was coming out of the changing room, the entitled dad was in my way with his back to me. I couldn't quite hear what he was saying over the other people in the room, but I did hear him rather loudly order his kids to stay put while he went to get changed. He walked off without seeing me and I left the locker room. The police stayed with me in the lobby until their database came back. Of course it came back that I had no history of crime and the gym staff had told the officers that I had no history of disturbing other people and that I was free to go. However, the entitled dad was hanging around near the back of the lobby watching me. The police saw this too and offered to give me a ride home. Since I had walked to the gym, I accepted since I was pretty shell-shocked by the whole ordeal and worried that this guy would try something on me on my way home. All in all, this was a really scary experience and I'm still shaking typing this. I'm just glad the manager and the police were professional enough to let me speak my piece. I should mention there were other parents in the pool who didn't care about my presence. Another dad and his kids were playing right next to me and they didn't care. Update to the story, I went back to the gym today to see if the same manager was on duty. Thankfully he was and he took me aside to explain his perspective on things. I will call him Mike, not his real name. Apparently, this Kevin seemed to be troubled from the start, being very irate with Mike as well as other staff members. The only reason it was not the lifeguards dealing with him was because they were scared of him, being 17 to 18-year-olds, and this guy was an early 30s looking buff man. Even Mike, who was roughly the same age as the Kevin, was concerned with his behavior, thinking if he got near me that we would end up throwing hands. When Mike first told him that I had offered to leave my goggles off so I wouldn't dive underwater, that apparently wasn't good enough, and then when the police arrived, Mike had actually just told them that he was concerned for my safety, nothing about the predator accusation. No wonder they were so nice. I then asked Mike if at any point he thought I really was a threat to the kids. He laughed and said no, saying that when I had mentioned I had kids of my own, the fact that I offered to apologize and attempt to de-escalate things, he could tell I was not dangerous. He was thinking more about me being safe than whether or not I was a threat. The police seemed to think that way too. At one point after I left, the Kevin was getting mouthy again and a receptionist chewed him out for his actions. I wish I could have seen that, by the way. Then Mike asked if I made it home okay and I told him about the police giving me a ride. Their car was not inside of the building. He was relieved and hoped this event had not put me off coming back. I do plan to come back to this gym now, since I can count on the staff to have my back. But yeah, everything is cool now and everybody knows what a twat this guy is, so I don't think I'm in any further trouble. By the way, to answer why I left, I was given the choice whether to go or not, so no one told me to leave. I was planning on leaving a few minutes before this encounter anyway, so I didn't mind too much. It was only when the police officer caught the Kevin staring at me that they offered to give me a ride. Since someone in the comments suggested I ask for it, I asked if they had a police log number for what happened. Mike said that they weren't given one but offered to chase it up for me. I declined, not really wanting to put myself any further into an issue that seems more or less resolved anyway. And the next one is an Am I the A-hole story. So my wife, 35 female, and I, 35 male, have been together for 10 years, married for 5. We grew up completely different. She's the only child of a surgeon father. Her mom died when she was 2 and it was her and her dad for most of her life. He remarried when she was 17, he is wealthy, sent her to private school, paid for her college, and when we met a decade ago, he was still paying her rent even though she had a solid job. I myself come from a poor family, but we have both pretty good jobs and make around the same amount of money now. She is such a daddy's girl and it's been affecting our relationship. Anytime she wants or needs something, she goes to her dad first, and sometimes it's about things that I could help with. I work in tech, and back when we started dating, she was starting grad school and she asked her dad, what laptop should I get? I told her I actually work in the field, which she already knew, and could easily answer that and get her what she needs, and she just kind of shrugged. Okay, fine, these little things have happened throughout the last decade, but there have been bigger issues recently. For example, last year, she decided she needs a new car. I disagreed. Her car is actually fine and she works from home and barely drives. She was adamant though. About a month later she tells me she's getting a new car. I told her we need to make these decisions together and we share finances and this is a major purchase. She says, oh, my dad is buying it. He said we can just sell mine and get some extra money. I told her it's kinda ridiculous to ask her dad to buy her a brand new car when she has a perfectly good one and we don't need it anyways. She got upset and said it's not that big of a deal and her dad does not mind and that the car was not that expensive anyways. She said I'm overreacting and that it's okay for her dad to do nice things for her. She got a brand new 2022 car completely paid for by her dad, and we then sold her old one. Now we are buying a new house and we have finally narrowed it down to 2 options. We were discussing it last week and my wife says, "Oh, I don't think house A is good. My dad said he'd think we could do a lot better in our budget." Before she talked to her dad, she loved house A, so I got a bit frustrated and said it didn't matter what her dad thought because this is our family's home and he won't be living there. She got angry, we started arguing, we both said mean things. I called her a spoiled brat and said that she needed to grow up, and she got upset and slept in the guest room, and it has been a few days and we have barely spoken. She said I was so mean to her, and that was it. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? And here, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Comment number 1, you're the a-hole. You sound super insecure about her father. Take a moment to reflect that you're on Reddit complaining she asked her dad for advice on a laptop. You are jealous, that's all there is to it, and it's pathetic. Instead of worrying about her relationship with her father and calling her names, why are you not using rich FIL to your advantage? Like, you actually started a fight over getting a new car neither of you had to pay for. It's just insane. Comment number 2, you're the a-hole, you need marriage counseling to deal with both your issues. This is a great way to lose your marriage otherwise. So deal with your issues instead of hurting your wife. You show nothing but mild contempt for your wife here. And now we got an update to the story. Wow, I didn't expect this get so much attraction. This was mostly a late night stream of consciousness and I realized I left a lot out, of course. I did apologize to my wife for the name calling and we both agreed we have some issues to work through. Here's some more info for context and to answer some questions I've seen asked. Yes, we could have afforded the car on our own, we do well for ourselves. I was not worried about not being able to afford it, I just did not understand the rationale of buying a brand new car when you have a perfectly good one. Her old car was not even that old, it was a 2019 and had pretty much all of the same features her new one has. It did not make sense to me. Also, we have a toddler and it's actually harder for her to get him in the new car than the old one. She also barely drives. I mean seriously, the car sits in the garage 90% of the time. She has even said before that she hates driving. Sure, it was free, but I guess it's more about the principle than the car itself. Anyway, she got what she wanted, so whatever. We've been together 10 years. Has it always been this way? Why did I stay? Valid points, and something I could dig deeper on. No answer right now other than I just fell in love and didn't want to leave. Do I have my own daddy issues? No, not really. My dad and I are fine, my parents are still married. We were very poor growing up and my parents undocumented and that was a very stressful way to live, but my family made it work. I live on the other side of the country now, so I don't see them as much, but we talk and visit regularly. My father-in-law is a nice enough guy, and for what it's worth, he also says his daughter is spoiled and has made comments throughout the years about it. Obviously, I didn't need to call her a spoiled brat, and I recognize the difference in her dad saying it and me, but I'm not the first person to say it to her. I know that doesn't make it right though. I recognize that I have my own issues due to poverty, drama, and all of that. I've been to individual therapy, that is a forever ongoing process. The house, all of the reasons my wife gave me are just matters of personal preference, like, my dad says we need a bigger kitchen, my dad says we need a bigger backyard. He is also convinced that we will have more children even though we said we don't want any more, and he also said we need more rooms for more kids. Nothing about safety of the house, the price, etc., just things he personally doesn't like or would have different in his own home. Also, we've been looking for over a year and he has given his thoughts many times throughout the year. So I'm not saying she shouldn't ask him for advice. Also, no, he would not be paying for any of the house. My wife has never been to any type of counseling in her life. When I suggested grief counseling for her after I started my own, she looked at me like I said something ridiculous. Her family is very skeptical about therapy. So I'm not sure if I will get her to do marriage counseling, but we will talk about this further. Finally, my wife is a funny, creative and beautiful woman, she's a great mom and she makes everyone laugh. I do love her despite what the post may make some of you believe. And the next one is titled HOA Compliance. I hate my HOA, the only reason I live here is because the house was dirt cheap at the end of 2010. For the most part I haven't had a lot of complaints, but during the lockdown I decided I wanted to give my yard some much needed TLC. It started with putting a gazebo in my backyard. I secured all the permissions I was told I needed and completed the work. Not 2 weeks after completion, I received a letter stating it was out of compliance. After weeks of arguing, I had to literally pick up my 3,000-pound redwood gazebo and move it 3 more feet from the wall. Now I get letters complaining about the vegetation in my front yard. I get it, it's been neglected for a while. I am doing my best to comply, but the trash guy only comes once a week, so I cannot throw away much yard waste at a time. Cue more angry letters and enter the malicious compliance. I decided that I'm going to remove my tree and replace it. I also want to just remove 5 plants. One of them is clearly dead by now. Their paperwork specifically says that I have to submit 1 item per design change request. So I submitted 7 different requests, 1 for each plant, 1 for tree removal and 1 for tree installation. Now they are sending me generic copy-paste replies saying I can change the yard. None of them specifying what design change was approved. I just keep replying to all of them asking for clarification. The last one I got said it was for the tree removal and planting of a new tree, but it didn't include the original letter or even a reference number. So I just replied back that I would like the specific letter included in the email so I can have an approval paper trail. They burned me bad with the gazebo incident. I won't get burned again, and I'm having a grand time wasting as much of their time as possible. I smile every time I reply to an email asking for specific information. Edit: since many of you are saying I should run for the board, here is why I won't. I have a full-time job that requires at least 2 weeks of travel each month. I have a teenage daughter that I want to spend as much time with as possible before she moves out. We go to a BJJ gym 4 to 5 nights a week. I also have a foreign exchange student living with me that wants to see America. My wife is a principal and I absolutely hate the HOA. So joining that team and dealing with others' hatred for it is most definitely not what I want to do with my free time. I will play their games maliciously. And yes, I want to move, but I don't know if you realized this or not. Housing prices are insane. I am staying put for now. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.